Okay, here's the Chapter 9 test we took yesterday. Didn't do very well, but let's see if we can show you how to do these, and we'll go from there. Hopefully you'll not have any problems on the test tomorrow, but again, tomorrow's a different test, but it's the same concept, so pay attention. So the first two problems are about whether or not you have acute, obtuse, or right triangles. So you're dealing with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is decide which one's the bigger number. 10 is the bigger number, so that is always going to be c. Same thing in number 2, 10 is the bigger number, so that's c. So you have to find the bigger number, square everything, 36, 49, and 100, 81, 64, and 100. And then add the two smaller numbers together, the 6 and 7 squared. That's going to be 70, 85. And c squared is 100. So since c squared is bigger, this is obtuse. And the 8 squared and the 9 squared added together, that's 145. And that is bigger than your c squared. So c squared is smaller, so that means it's acute. You have to remember which one is c, and if c squared is bigger, it's obtuse. If c squared is smaller, it's acute. Okay, so what you should do to help practice this is go back to your problems in your book and choose a few of the odds so you can know if you're getting the right answers, or the chapter review, and just check out those answers in the back of the book. All right, so now we're going to go on to number 3 and 4 here. Find the missing side length. So again, you need to know a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You can't use Pythagorean theorem here because you don't know your angles. I mean, not Pythagorean theorem, I'm sorry. You can't use your trig functions because you don't know your angles. Okay, so now the other part of this that you need to remember is it wants simplest radical form. So let's do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C is always your hypotenuse. All right, so 8 and 11 are your a and b. So 8 squared plus 11 squared is equal to your x squared. All right, so 64 plus 121 is equal to x squared. This is 185 equals x squared. Then you take the square root to get rid of your square on the x. And 185 does not break down, so that is the actual answer. So x is equal to the square root of 185. So you're done with that one. That's in simplest radical form. Now we look at number 4. And again, this is your c. The two legs make up the 90-degree angle. So a and b would be 6 and x. It doesn't matter which one's a or b. Okay, so a squared, 36, plus b squared, x squared, equals c squared, which is 64. So you need to move the 36 across the equal sign, so we subtract it. So x squared is equal to 28. And we take the square root, and you're not done there. X is not just the square root of 28. Part of what you're being graded on is being able to break down the square root of 28. So let's break that down. That's the square root of 4 and the square root of 7. 4 times 7 is 28. So the answer to this should be 2 square root of 7. You get half a point off for not breaking down the square root of 28. All right, let's go to the next page. Number 5. These are 30, 60, 90 triangles. So your hypotenuse is equal to twice the short leg, and the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. On a 45, 90-degree triangle, number 6, your formula is the leg is equal to the hypotenuse is, hold on a second. The hypotenuse is, how do I erase this? Sorry. The hypotenuse is equal to the leg times the square root of 2. Okay, so let's go back to number 5. Okay, and on number 5, let's go back to number 5 here. Let's fill everything in. So the hypotenuse is u. Remember, you got to identify hypotenuses, short legs and long legs with 30, 60, 90 degree triangles. And that's 2 times the short leg. The short leg is 3 square root of 2 over 2. Okay, and in this case, the square root of 2's will reduce out, and then u is equal to 3 square root of 2. Now you're not done, you got to get v. So on v, v is your long leg, so let's substitute v for the L. My short leg is 3 square root of 2 over 2. And then you're multiplying by the square root of 3 in the formula. Okay, so many of you that missed this said that this was 6 square root of 2 over 2. Well, the thing is, you have to multiply the square roots together. All right, so v is equal to 3 square root of 6 over 2. And there's nothing else you can do with that. That's the answer. I apologize for any interruptions. I keep tapping the off button to move my iPad. Okay, so v is equal to 3 square root of 2 over 2. And that's what u is equal to. So the thing is, if you can't tell me these formulas, then you don't get any credit. You have to write these formulas down. And again, it says write in simplest form. Many of you used the trigonometry to do this, and I told you many times in the class that when I need to see the 30, 60, 90 rules and the 45, 45, 90 rules, you had to use those. You have to show me that you can use more than one tool in mathematics. Okay, so let's do number 6. It's a 45, 45 degree triangle. Okay, so that means x and y are the same. So if this is 45, that's 45, and these two sides have to be the same. That's the base angles theorem. So all I really need to do is solve for one of these. So the hypotenuse, again, is, in this case, 5. I don't know the leg, I'll just call it x. It could be y, because they are the same, times the square root of 2. Now, how do you solve? You divide off the square root of 2, which many of you did, but that's not the answer. You cannot leave your answer like that. 5 over the square root of 2, you have to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. And then that equals 5 square root of 2 over the square root of 4, which is 5 square root of 2 over 2. That is your answer. All right, number 7 is a 30, 60 degree, 90 degree triangle. So again, you have those formulas up there on number 5. So let's do this one. The hypotenuse is 7. The short leg is v. So how do I solve for v? By dividing off the 2. And 7 halves is equal to v. Now, the long leg is u. And again, I'm just substituting into the formulas above number 5. U equals the short leg is v, times the square root of 3. Okay, well, there's two variables. I need one piece of information. So the square root of, v, we just found. So we're going to plug that into the formula. U equals 7 over 2 times the square root of 3. And that's okay to leave it like that, or you could write it like this, 7 square root of 3 all over 2. Either one of those is fine. So those are your two answers for v and u. Now go to number 8. It is a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. So now what we're going to do is use the formula above number 6. So the hypotenuse, in this case, is x. Again, that's the biggest thing, being able to identify what kind of triangle you have, what the formulas are, and then substituting what is a short leg, long leg, and a hypotenuse, or if the legs are the same. So on a 45, 45, 90, the legs are the same. So that tells me right away that y is 10. Now how do I find the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is x times the leg, which is 10, times the square root of 2. That's in the formula. And then you're done because this does not simplify any further. Again, identify what type of triangle you have, identify the formulas you need, identify short legs and long legs if you're in the 30, 60, 90 degree triangles, and substitute the information. If you're in a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle, then understand that the two legs are equal. Okay, so let's go to set of problems. Finding the missing side. So on these, what we need to do is identify which corner we're using. So here we're going to use Sohcahtoa. All right, so we have been given angle 57. So at this angle, we have x being the adjacent side, and 14 is the hypotenuse. All right, so I'm going to keep saying this. Again, you have to identify what pieces you have. Adjacent or attached side, leg, opposite leg, or hypotenuse. Hypotenuse we don't consider a leg. So if it's a leg, it's either going to be the adjacent leg or the opposite leg. Don't put the hypotenuse in any of those positions. So then once you identify that you have the adjacent leg and the hypotenuse, you look at your Sohcahtoa and decide which one of the trig functions you're going to use. And in this case, we're going to use the cosine of 57 degrees is equal to the adjacent leg x over the hypotenuse. All right, so now what do? You have to multiply by the 14 on both sides. And you use your calculator, and you take 14 times the cosine of 57 on your calculator, and you got to make sure you are in degree mode, and then hit equals. And so that means that x is equal to 7.6. It says round to the nearest tenth. It says 7.62 on my calculator. So I look at the tenths. I look to the number to the right of it. So the answer should be 7.6. All right, number 10, let's do it again. Identify the corner you're using. So in this case, we're using this corner right here. And I have the adjacent leg. It's an attached leg. And the hypotenuse again. So again, I'm going to use cosine. Okay, so the cosine of 31 degrees is equal to the adjacent leg x over the hypotenuse. Okay, and again, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to multiply by 13. And we take 13 times the cosine of 31 on our calculator. And we get x equals 11.143. We need to look at the 10th position, look to the right, and that tells us it should be 11.1. Okay, so let's go up to down to a number 11 here. And again, identify the angle, the corner that you're starting with. And we have the opposite leg now. That leg is not attached, so that's the opposite leg. And the hypotenuse. So that means we're going to use the sine of 40 degrees is equal to the opposite leg over the hypotenuse. Again, to get x by itself, we multiply by 20 on both sides. And we see that x is equal to 20 times the sine of 40 degrees. And that's going to be 12.855. Look at the tenths. Look to the number to the right. It's a 5. So therefore, x is going to be 12.9. All right, number 12. This is our corner. Here we have an adjacent side and an opposite side. That means we're going to use the tangent of 52 degrees is equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. So we're going to multiply by 12 on both sides and take 12 times the tangent of 52 on your calculator, and x is going to be equal to 15.359. I look at my 10th position, look to the number to the right, that's a 5, so my answer should be 15.4. Okay, so that is those 4 problems. Let's go on to the here. Number 13, find the measure of the indicated angle to the nearest degree. So on this picture here, I don't have the pictures of each of these problems, so I'll have to write those in, but I gave you those pictures on your test. So let's go ahead and do this problem. To find the degree, this is when you're going to have to use the arc tangent, the arc sine, the arc cosine, that little symbol of -1 to the top on your calculator. So here, again, you start with the corner they gave you, all right? And then what do you have? I have an adjacent side and an opposite side. So that's tangent again. So the tangent of, let's just call that corner x, is equal to 70 over 20. Sohcahtoa, again, means in tangent we have the opposite over the adjacent. So the first letter is always on top. So how we solve this is you take x equals the arc tangent of 70 divided by 20 on your calculator. All right? And this says round to the nearest degree. That means no decimals. So you take your calculator, you hit the second key, and then hit tangent, and you should see the -1 above the tangent there. And take 70 divided by 20. And that gives me 74.05. Now the nearest degree means I look at that number, and then I look at the number to the right of it. It's a 0, so it's going to stay 74. So the answer is 74 degrees. That's what it's rounded to. All right, number 14. So here's the corner. We're going to call that x. We have the opposite leg and the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of x is equal to the opposite leg, that goes on top, and the hypotenuse, 46, on the bottom. Again, to solve this, you have to take the arc sine of 39 divided by 46. So on your calculator, hit second, and then the sine button, and then 39 divided by 46. And you get 57.976. Again, it goes to the nearest degree. So we need to look at this number, then to the right, that's a 9. So the answer should be 58 degrees. So part of math is knowing how to round correctly. You are graded on how you round, so make sure you do the rounding correctly. All right, number 15. Let's draw this picture. This will be a wheelchair ramp. It is 4.2 meters long. It rises up 0.7 meters. What is the angle of elevation? So it wants that angle there to the nearest tenth of a degree. So again, this is a right triangle. We have the opposite leg and the adjacent leg. That means we're going to use tangent of x equals the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. And since we're finding x, to get x by itself, you have to take the arc tangent of the other side of 0.7 divided by 4.2. So second tangent, 0.7 divided by 4.2 is going to be 9.462. It says round to the nearest tenth of a degree. So there's our tenths. We look to the right of that position. So the answer should be 9.5. Okay. Number 16. You go to the park on a windy day to fly a kite. You've released 40 feet of string. The string makes an angle 36 degrees with the ground. How high is the kite? So we'll call this y. How high is it? So what have we been given? We have this angle, we have the opposite leg y, and the hypotenuse 40. Opposite and hypotenuse would be the sine in Sohcahtoa. Sine of 36 is equal to the opposite leg over the hypotenuse. So what are we going to do? We're going to multiply by 40 on both sides. And so 40 times the sine of 36 degrees is equal to 23.5. It doesn't say what to round to, so you could leave it as 23, you could say 24, you could take it 23.5114 if you wanted to, but I did make a mention that if it doesn't say, always go out to your tenths. So that would be what the answer is, 23.5 feet in the air. Okay, 17. A 22-foot ladder is resting against the side of a building. The building is straight up and down. That's 90 degrees. The bottom of the ladder is 3 feet from the building. Find the measure of the angle the ladder makes with the ground. So it wants that. So we have the adjacent leg 3 and the hypotenuse 22. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So the cosine of x is equal to the adjacent leg 3 over the hypotenuse 22. Again, to find that angle, you have to take the arc cosine of 3 divided by 22 on your calculator. So hit second, and then the cosine key, and then 3 divided by 22. And that gives you 82.1625. It says round to the nearest tenth of a degree. So we go to our tenths, look to the right, that's a 6. So the answer should be 82.2 degrees. Number 18. You look up at a 55-degree angle to see the top of a building. The vertical distance from the ground to your eye, so this is you. That vertical distance is 5 feet. Oh, 5.5 feet, sorry. 5.5 feet. And the distance from you to the building is 57 feet. So here's this building over here. Draw like this. There's the building. You're 5.5 feet tall. And the distance from you to the building is 57. All right. So we're going to find the distance, or excuse me, the height from 5.5 feet up to the top of the building. So just from here to there. And then we'll add 5.5 to our answer. So that was the trick with this question. So now let's just find y. To get y, we have the opposite leg y, and we have the adjacent leg 57. Opposite and adjacent would be tangent. So the tangent of 55 degrees is equal to the opposite leg y over the adjacent leg 57. So what do? We multiply by 57 on both sides. And 57 times the tangent of 55. That gives me y equals 81.404. That's feet. We have to add the 5.5 feet of how tall the person is, or how we are. And that gives me 86.9 feet. It doesn't say what to round to, but again, I said round to the tenths if it's not given to you. So 86.9 feet is the answer. And that is the test. Study for tomorrow, please.